Hello, and I'm very excited to be talking today about video games, gaming, and market research. And my presentation today is Play for High Score, Video Game Manual for Market Research. One of the ways to think about this is that this is a video game primer for market researchers. So what I'm going to present to you today is some information about the market and get you thinking about how we can incorporate video games into market research. So today, what I want to look at and talk about are a few different things, but before I get started in that, I want to just give you a brief introduction about what's going to happen. And so, if you look here, one of the really important things is to know your 3 G's of gaming for successful incorporation into market research. So I'm calling this the 3 G's, and if you always keep the 3 G's in mind, you're going to be doing okay. And so the first 3G is gamers. You need to know who gamers are, what they want, and how best to incorporate gaming into market research for success. Games. What makes a good game? What keeps people interested? And what do you need to know to make a successful game or to incorporate that into your research? And then finally, gaming. When we think about gaming, what can we do? What makes a good game? Why should we use games in market research? And so I'm going to cover these things briefly. Let me tell you a little bit about myself and why it is that I'm talking to you today. I have studied video games for 11 years. I'm a PhD candidate in anthropology, and my realm of focus is video games and video gaming culture. So I have studied a lot of different aspects of video games, from work, fun, violence in video games, the seriousness of it, the play aspects, console, computer games, you name it, I've studied it. I am what is considered a fan scholar. So I have an absolute passion for video games. I love video games, and I study them and love to see them incorporated. I said to my manager the other day, this is absolutely fantastic to see this come up, because now I have a passion, which is video games, and can add it to my career. And that's absolutely amazing to me to see this happening. So let's get started, and let's start off and talk about gamers. So I'm going to give you some numbers that are really important to remember in terms of your audience, in terms of the gaming audience. 34. 34 is the average age of a game player today. This is a result of the Atari generation. So it's people who grew up on video games. So a lot of people think and believe that video games are the realm of Gen Y, the younger crowd, when in fact video gamers are actually an older group of individuals. And as a matter of fact, 26 of Americans over the age of 50 play video games. So don't discount using these techniques for incorporating it within an older crowd. 40. Now, the number 40, there's 2 here. The age of 40 is the average age of the most frequent person who purchases video games in household. That's 40. 40% of all game players are women. So if we think they're for young boys, think again. Not only are they over the age of 34, the average age is 34, but 40% are women. And women over the age of 18 represent a significantly higher portion of the game-playing population than boys aged 17 and younger. 42. 42% play games on wireless devices. And the reason I bring this number up is because we're starting to talk about how we can incorporate the mobile device into market research in general. Well, here we can add another layer on that. Let's talk about gaming on a mobile platform for market research. And the final number, and this is very telling, is 67. 67% of American households play computer or console video games. Huge numbers. There are many people in America who are familiar with this format, love this format, and have a passion for it. So it makes sense for us as market researchers to tap into this realm of gamers. So let's talk about the games and what makes a good game. The first thing that makes a good game is graphics. Now there's 5 things that I'm going to talk about, and the first 3 are the most important. But the first thing is graphics, and I have a lovely example here of how Mario started and Mario is today. So don't downplay the role that graphics has in a game. The second thing is the playability. If you have a game that's absolutely wonderful, but very difficult to play, not intuitive, very frustrating, players are not going to get into it, and you lose that connection that you can make with a player or a respondent through the game. Achievements, or having an award system. This is extremely important, and the award system doesn't need to be much. It can be something as simple as saying, hey, you've earned some points because you've now collected X number of stars. An award system keeps players going, keeps them coming back, and gives them something to look forward to. And the last two elements, they are really important in console and computer games, and I don't see them having a huge role as of yet within gaming and market research, but that's the story, the rationale behind it. The rationale itself is important, but having a story element, it can be there in the background, but it doesn't need to be the entire reason. And then finally, music. Music adds a tone, adds a way for people to get further into the game. A really good example of this, if you're thinking high-end video game, is Angry Birds. I think everybody's heard of Angry Birds. And it has all of these elements. The graphics are good. It's super easy to play. It gives you an award system by awarding you stars, 1 to 3 stars. It has a story. Even if it's a simple little story, it's there. And it has music, which is actually pretty catchy. It has all of the components that make a good game. And we need to think about these components when we start to design things that we might use for respondents and market research. And the final piece that I want to talk about is, first I want to talk about reality in gaming. And I think a lot of us would assume we can take this and give people chores or do simulations and get information. Reality, worst game ever. People don't want to play their lives. They use this as a reason for escape, relaxation, a release. It's a cathartic release. Even a simple game can be a cathartic release for people. And so reality, of course, is subject to the viewer. So if you think of the popularity of the game, Facebook game Farmville, you're farming. I don't think you're going to find a lot of farmers who play that. And even though it's a farming game, it's still not very realistic. So let's talk about gaming and why it's important to incorporate gaming into market research. So when we look at gaming, there are several different aspects of games and gaming that we can look at. So the first one that we can look at is this work-fun dichotomy. It's always assumed that people play games because they're fun. And while this is true, games are fun. We tend not to play games that aren't fun. Games can also be work. So when people play games, they play games for a number of reasons. So they can play them for competition. They can play them to get those achievements. They can play them for this cathartic release that happens when you're playing a game. Gamers accept work in games, and a lot of games take work. And as long as they're punctuated by fun, the work aspect is okay to have. So when we're designing something, we can think about the fact that, okay, this needs to be fun, but it can be work as well. As long as it's challenging, there's competition, and there's a reward at the end, gamers accept that a game is going to be work. You have the concept of flow, and I think this is really important. Csikszentmihalyi, who is a psychologist, came up with the optimal psychological experience, and this is the experience of flow. And we can absolutely tie this into video games, and this is when you've designed a game that players get into, that they have immersed themselves into, that you reach a state of zen, so to speak. And it's at this state when you kind of let go of the rational, let go of the conscious, and the unconscious takes over. And that would be amazing for us to tap into, to get people outside of thinking too much about their answers, thinking too much about how they go about a purchase decision or their daily routine or why they do particular things, and let that go. And gaming can help us achieve that. You can get the symbolic behavior, and so we can look at the unspoken, we can look at how people are acting. We can get that sort of behavior that's inherent in those video games. Community, absolutely, I don't need to say a whole lot on this, but you can get a community of people in a video game and build this tight-knit group of people that you can return to time and time again to get information and answers. And of course, you have engagement. Who would want to simply sit there and click through answers when they could play a video game and get something at the end of it? You get that engagement, you're going to get people more interested in what's happening and probably get better answers that are closer to reality than simply reading a list and clicking. And so the question that leaves is, where does it leave us? So I say, congratulations, you've entered the world of gaming and market research for this really short overview. But Here's my thoughts on where we can go with this. The first would definitely be to tap into the mobile market and mobile gaming. We could get instant information in the form of a game from participants about things like purchase decision or where it is that they go during the day, what it is that they're doing. You can really tap into the culture and add the component of GPS on top of that, and you have a really solid understanding of a participant's behavior. There's games right now in the mobile market that tap into GPS, and so it's not a far stretch to look at this. Sort of the holy grail of the gaming community would be to build your own virtual gaming community that you could have for any particular reason. Researchers can go tap into that. You can pull subgroups out. You build this community of people. You build trust. You build identity within this community, and you can get answers to just about anything. Video game rewards. So maybe we're not quite ready to incorporate the gaming aspects, but if we want to reach certain people, why not give them video game rewards? And by video game rewards, I'm not talking about actually trying to give them something in-game, but maybe giving them game time. So you can have, we'll pay for a couple months of your subscription to a game that you play, or we'll give you some Xbox Live time. We'll hook you up with a game when it comes out. There's a lot of different opportunities here for this. Choice analysis, there was a great example at the Festival of NewMR. It was the winning poster of a choice analysis type exercise that gaming would absolutely be incorporated with this. And then, of course, interactive focus groups using avatars. This would be an absolutely fantastic idea to do. You could have people come in, design an avatar. They could do exercises, visuals. There's a lot of different information that you could get just from their interaction and the way that they design their avatar and what they do online. So just because we don't have that face-to-face interaction, there's a lot of other cues and things that we can get from them. And so this was your really quick tour of gaming and market research. And so game on. I hope this has helped get you thinking about how we can use gaming. And if you have any questions, please let me know.